I'm Anne Riddell, and welcome to Arts in the City. Isamu Noguchi was an artist, furniture designer, and landscape architect who worked in everything from stone to light. Donna Hanover heads over to a spot in Queens that Noguchi himself considered very special.
Isamu Noguchi won fans over his 6 decades as an artist with his monumental stone pieces, graceful furniture, large public works, and Akari light sculptures. But he also did something else unique among artists in the U.S.
He was the first artist to open his own museum in his own lifetime.
Matthew Kirsch is the curator and director of research at the Noguchi Museum in Long Island City, Queens. Its 40th anniversary is being celebrated with a reinstallation of many works close to the way Noguchi arranged them here when it opened.
He did think of himself ultimately, even though he was this inveterate traveler, as a New Yorker. So it was very important for him to create this space here.
Noguchi was born in Los Angeles, the son of an American mother and a Japanese father who left. His mom took him to Japan as a youngster and taught in English schools to support him and his sister. But she sent him back to the U.S. to study in his teens.
So he started taking sculpture classes at a school called the Leonardo da Vinci School in the East Village in about 1924, and he was pretty much a prodigy from the start.
He made both figurative and abstract art. He explored different styles and materials. His mom encouraged his dreams.
This is a piece called Mother and Child, pretty classic iconography for a sculptor.
Do you think this reflects his affection and love for his mother?
He did speak during his lifetime about being the product of the mind of an independent woman.
And he said that with great admiration.
With great admiration, yes.
In spite of his talent, Noguchi had years as a starving artist.
This is a piece called Strange Bird. This is a piece that was done in his studio in Greenwich Village in the 1940s at McDougal Alley. He was a broke artist. He was really working with like off-cast materials, things that like pieces of slate or marble that he might find at a discount in New York City's different stone yards. All of these pieces are kind of like have intricate slots, and they fit together so that they can be taken apart and reassembled.
Also in the 40s, he created Lunar Infant.
When you consider most sculpture, you're seeing light grazing across the surface of that sculpture. Noguchi was interested in creating sculpture that glowed from within. And this was like Noguchi's experimentation with creating light sculptures because he just wasn't totally satisfied with the results. He kind of like set down that idea, but he would come back to the idea of light sculpture.
Paper lanterns were a big part of life in Japan. Noguchi grew up with them. But as an artist in the 1950s, he became well known for giving them different shapes. He called them Akari light sculptures. Akari means light. And he used electric bulbs to keep them aglow. In a way, he was creating sculpture for the home that was affordable.
Noguchi had a pretty expansive view of the scope of sculpture. He thought about it as something that would interact with people, that could interact with people in their everyday lives. So he considered pretty much, anything could be sculpture, furniture, lighting, set designs for dance.
In fact, Noguchi was a frequent collaborator with famed dancer and choreographer Martha Graham.
Noguchi and Graham met in the 1920s. He actually had a studio in the same building as her in Carnegie Hall. This piece was created for one of Martha Graham's choreographies called Embattled Garden. Martha Graham's take on the Adam and Eve story. So here, Noguchi collapses both the meadow of the Garden of Eden with the apple of knowledge. If you look closely, you'll see that these cutouts resemble the seeds of an apple. This is from a Cave of the Heart. She wanted a dress that she can step in and out of. Graham actually inhabits the piece and then walks around the stage with it.
Also on display are models for public works, including one playground that got built and some that didn't. Noguchi's early abstract art is here. So are busts, like the ones he sometimes did to pay the bills. And there are the monumental sculptures many people love.
When people enter the Noguchi Museum, these beautiful stone and granite pieces are what they see. Is this how Noguchi saw his work?
So when Noguchi installed the museum for its opening in 1985. He wanted to show the work in heavier stones that he was working on at that moment, and that he was most excited by.
The exhibit runs through January 11, 2026.
We called it Against Time because, Noguchi didn't really think of himself as someone who had finished his work. And he wanted to kind of show that with this museum that he was still creating.
And it was right across the street from his studio, so he could easily go back and forth.
He really thought of this as a space that would become part of its neighborhood. He wanted to create spaces where people could actually inhabit art in the everyday world. Parks, playgrounds, gardens.
Though he died in 1988, the museum with its own lovely garden he designed is still a sanctuary for many who visit. I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
Art for Impact. Since 1996, a local nonprofit has been dotting the city's landscapes with murals, changing lives and communities with paint and a passion for social justice. Step inside Groundswell's Brooklyn headquarters and you'll find paint everywhere, on the walls, on the floor, on the chairs. But this is more than a hub of colorful inspiration. It's an all-out effort to change society one paintbrush at a time.
Groundswell brings together young people, artists, and community members to use art as a tool for social change. So we focus on what the social justice issues are in a community. It's identified by the young people and the community members that we're serving. They do the research, figure out what's happening with that issue, what are the important elements that they want to highlight, and then they create the art to bring that to life.
Groundswell's work can be seen throughout the city with more than 600 murals across all 5 boroughs, created since 1996.
It's really interesting to think about the issues that they want to talk about, because while the participants might change and the artwork might look different, sadly, the social justice issues remain the same. So we're still focusing on issues of immigration, women's rights, girls' rights, mental health, tenant and housing rights, so equity in education. Those things don't change.
Christian Holmesy first started as a youth participant with Groundswell through a summer leadership program. Now, years later, he's a staff member, and he remembers the impact of that first mural.
After my first mural program with Groundswell, I realized all of the other participants that I was working with, all of the messages that were being drawn and created and painted in the mural was, way more than I expected to learn and be educated about.
Groundswell also offers free after-school programs and summer sessions, serving about 300 young people year-round. And the mural painting doesn't require weather that cooperates because of this innovative material.
The parachute cloth allows us to work during the winter months because you can't paint on the walls outside because of the cold. So we're able to unroll it, do all of the painting, and then when we're able to install it on the wall, we're able to bring out a special kind of glue, glue it onto the wall, and it looks like it was painted directly on the wall.
So ultimately, it's pretty much seamless to the wall.
Yes, it is.
To get involved or find more information, go to groundswell.nyc. Legendary actress Bette Davis's career spanned nearly 6 decades. The Hollywood icon's life on screen and off has inspired a one-woman show. Our Neil Rosen sat down with the show's creator and star.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Bette Davis, the iconic star of the silver screen, is often regarded as one of the greatest actresses of all time, having starred in such classic films as Jezebel, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and All About Eve, just to name a few.
Jerry, don't let's ask for the moon. We have the stars.
She won 2 Oscars and was nominated for many more.
Come on, Oscar. Let you and me get drunk.
She was even the subject of a very popular song, Bette Davis Eyes.
She's got Bette Davis eyes.
Now there's a sensational one-woman show that has evolved over a period of several years, written by and starring Jessica Scher. It's called Bette Davis Ain't for Sissies, where she brings this legendary movie star to life.
I am larger than life, bigger than the big screen. I am an actress.
How did you come up with this? Where did this idea come from?
Well, what happened for me, Neil, is that I was walking down New York City. I would be stopped in the streets and someone would say, you know what, you look like a young Bette Davis. And I said, I do. And sure enough, I got Bette Davis eyes. And so it was the beginning of my interest and I love Betty. And I found that we look a lot alike.
How much research was involved in playing Bette Davis and writing this play?
So for me to research Betty, it took me about 2 years to really dive into the year I wanted to dive into. I was interested in 1939. When I was doing my research, I found that the 1939 Oscars actually leaked all the Oscar winners early. So the newspaper had leaked all the winners, and I thought that was so interesting. So as the playwright in me, I felt that was a great place to start my play. She knew she was going to lose to Gone with the Wind, and I felt as an actress, how would that feel as Betty to lose to Vivien Leigh?
Her star will be eclipsed by that British beauty, Vivien Leigh, who will take home the Oscar for Best Actress in Gone with the Wind.
So the similarities that I find between Betty and Jess, we're both fighters. We both are trailblazers. We both stand up and fight for what we believe in, and we both won't give up. I, much like Betty, am someone who, like, once I have an idea, I want to do it, and I want to put action plan to it. And I fell in love with this idea of this woman fighting Hollywood. She was not only a great actress, she also stood up for and fought against the male-dominated studio system. And that, for me, was really interesting. That's how I got into Betty. I found her personal fight and her fight in Hollywood as well. And then I sprinkled in all of her, her incredible career.
I am an actress, and I am going to own that screen.
We begin my play, we go all the way through her life, and most importantly, we see her fighting against Warner Brothers, and then we also see her personal life. We see she had 4 failed marriages, she had abortions, she had a lover, William Wyler, that didn't work out. She had so much more in her life that I now put into my play because audiences needed to see not just Betty the star, they need to see Betty who she really is as a real woman.
I'm an actress in her prime who can't get work. I used to fight for good roles, now I can't even fight for any of my age range.
I think Bette Davis, an actress, is the first woman, and almost in a sense, the first feminist in Hollywood, to truly stand up and fight against something that was very, like a system that wasn't working. Betty stood up and fought for what she believed in, and she did it vocally. I think audiences like that. They like to see someone fight.
I wasn't fighting for myself. I was fighting for every actor in Hollywood. The right to choose our work, to be treated fairly, that's what I was fighting for.
People tell you look like Bette Davis, and you do, and you do wear a wig, and you make yourself even more Bette Davis-like. But as an actor, you also had to get the voice down. Was that a challenge?
For my voice, I knew that Betty's voice is so iconic. I worked with a vocal coach for 2 years, and Robert Perillo really took me through the steps of finding Betty's voice, and we found Betty's voice is a different timbre than my voice. It's a little bit more curt than my voice is.
The great William Wyler. He lectured me about the importance of a grand exit.
Well, now, thank you, Neil, for this interview. I know the world will see me now because Bette Davis deserves to be seen.
For showtimes and dates, visit the website at BetteDavisAintForSissies.com. At the Triad Theater in Manhattan, for Arts in the City, I'm Neil Rosen.
Next, Andrew Falzone takes us inside Mercer Labs, an innovative museum where contemporary art and science meet.
At first glance, Mercer Labs looks like a testament to technology. Giant screens, colossal speakers, and three-dimensional fiber optics fused together into what might be a sensory overload. But for artist and innovator Roy Nakum, it's the culmination of a lifelong fascination with New York City.
I always wanted to move to New York. Remember my parents, they asked me, you want to do a bar mitzvah party event in Israel, or you want to go somewhere and use that money to travel somewhere? I said, I want to go to New York. Went to New York, fell in love in New York, especially because it's so diverse, and it's so wide and it's so open.
And while many have come to live in the melting pot that is New York, few have embraced and resonated with the city like Nakum, whose work has been admired and collected by the likes of Jay-Z, LeBron James, and music producer Swiss Beats, from whom he borrowed this line to best describe his relationship with the Big Apple.
the sky is not the limit, it's just the view here. For me, I think all the greatest artists that I admire, you know, most of them are from New York, so I'm kind of like, I always wanted to be here and contribute, you know?
In scope and scale, the contributions to the New York City art scene are sizable. The museum is divided into 3 floors totaling 36,000 square feet, a 3-minute walk from the World Trade Center and the Oculus.
I remember in Cooper Union, they asked us to create a space that not exists, let's call it, right? And how people gonna, so I just create like the main hall, a space that can be transformed. But I show it to a bunch of people. They say it's a great idea, but you're dreaming too far. It's not realistic. And you know, 20 years after, here we are, and it's actually happened.
Unlike the typical art museum where the focus is solely on the art, at Mercer Labs, the medium, environment, and technology are just as important. In a 5,000 square foot room called The Map, 26 projectors create a 16K laser projection experience. A cascade of images flow around the room, all enhanced by a cutting-edge holoplot sound system, allowing you to perceive sound in 3-dimensional space.
And you let go and you have that feel, it just, you feel free. You feel like a little kid again. You feel like you let your mind go.
Other technological delights at the museum include Infinite. A 14 by 40-foot screen is surrounded by a hall of mirrors, enhancing artistry while serving a very practical purpose.
Real estate is very tight, so that's why there's a lot of rooms with a lot of mirrors, so we can create massive, massive spaces.
And the exhibit Ecosystem features a drawing station that channels imagination by bringing a coloring book to life.
I really wanted to take people to their inner child in themselves and have a moment of joy. That's why you have the sketches. You can sketch like as a little kid, right? But then you take them, you scan them, it becomes something different, alive.
But it's not just the high tech that adorns Mercer Labs, and Nahum isn't just a child of technology.
It's interesting to hear you break down how the art evolved, how these portraits evolved. Did you start on the digital side with art, or did you start with more traditional oil-based techniques?
I start with the traditional oil painting. You know, maybe seeing my father when I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old, painting, doing hyper-realism paintings, and I was like, how is it even normal with a white canvas to get and bring life to the canvas? So that was always my dream.
Which is realized in a room entitled Freed, where Roy and I did most of our talking. A surprising contrast from the dim light of the rest of the museum, it features the mini exhibition A Moment of Clarity, where his photorealistic landscapes soothe the mind perhaps overstimulated or even disoriented by other parts of the museum. But the true scope of Nahum's traditional talent is on display in a gallery called The Line, which features even more hyper-realistic oils.
I trained by, you know, old masters, kind of like how to painting, you know, mixing my own pigments and creating. So I've been painting since I'm a little boy, right? So showing the process and showing the craftsmanship and showing the concept behind those portraits was very important to me.
After creating these photorealistic oil paintings, Nahum invited his visually impaired portrait subjects to impart their own interpretation to the work.
Doing those portraits took me, you know, more than 5 years to complete. Each portrait took me a year to complete. I got very emotional seeing that and hearing them and their thoughts and the ideas and the concerns and about, you know, ruin the piece. They not ruin anything. This is so much adding. Without that, it's just a portrait.
I'm Andrew Falzone for Arts in the City.
For over 90 years, Betty Boop has captivated audiences with her distinctive style and playful spirit. Now, in a dazzling theatrical transformation, Boop the Musical brings the iconic cartoon character to vibrant life on Broadway, reinventing her timeless appeal for a new generation of theatergoers. Patrick Pacheco, host of CUNY TV's Theater All the Moving Parts, sat down with the show's creative team.
Today, we're taking a trip from the silver screen to the Great White Way with Boop, the musical, a whimsical modern fairy tale that reimagines one of America's most iconic cartoon characters for a new generation.
Little versatility never hurt. Boop,
Step right. Betty Boop made her debut in 1930's Dizzy Dishes, a flapper-era creation by Fleischer Studios. She first appeared as a sassy singing pup with long, floppy ears. But by 1932, she evolved into the Betty we know today. Big eyes, spit curls, hoop earrings, and that infamous boop oop a doop.
My weakness now.
But Boop the Musical drops Betty Boop into 2025. Frank Caruso, creative director of Fleischer Studios, has been Betty's guardian and illustrator for decades.
Betty is so iconic, you know, and as a cartoonist, you know, I've been working on her for 38 years now. You have to uphold this character that's so beloved to so many people around the world, you know, and I felt nothing but confident because of the great team, you know, the talented people involved. I just knew it was going to really celebrate the character that Max Fleischer created.
Tony Award-winning director-choreographer Jerry Mitchell's vision takes Betty from her black and white cartoon world into modern-day New York City.
When I started to research her and looked at where it started in the 20s and 30s with the black and white cartoons, that's when I got the idea that if we started there and made her a star with one thing missing, love, and brought her to New York City to find that. When love followed her and she got kissed, her world turned to color. So your life is never full of color until your life is full of love.
It's all about Betty, and Jasmine Amy Rogers, the actress bringing Boop to life, is making a star turn in her Broadway debut.
I remember falling in love with Betty. I was no older than 10. My family's big theme park people, and we always go to Universal in Florida. And there is a section of Universal that is all the old cartoons. But I remember falling in love with this giant Betty Boop. It was like a big animatronic, and her leg kicks. Yeah. And I was so little, and I begged my mother to let me have a Betty Boop doll. And then I carried it around for the rest of the vacation. So she's been in my life for a long time.
You're playing an empowered black woman.
Yes.
And that must mean a great deal to you as well.
It does. And to have people come to the stage door, black women of all ages, and be so excited. It means everything to me, including my family members. They're like, just to see themselves on stage in a way that is just so joyous, and there's no suffering, there's no trauma, it's just joy and love. I couldn't ask for a better role.
Tony Award winner Faith Prince plays Valentina, the brilliant astrophysicist who has something in common with the show's protagonist. Faith, do you have a boop-boop-a-doop vibe?
You know, yes. People have always said, you know, you have sort of a Betty Boop voice. And my brother used to tell me, you are Betty Boop, because she has a push-pull. She has this fun sassiness, right? And sexiness, but she's also female empowerment.
Creating the look of Betty Boop for the stage required the creative team's seamless collaboration. Set designer David Rockwell and hair and wig designer Sabina Majid were among the creative artists that brought our 2D leading lady into three-dimensional dynamism.
We started with research, and the joy of starting with research in the case of this was it was about being kinetic. And so much of what made this character come to life is the kind of kinetic quality of Betty in those environments.
I talked to Jasmine and find out some of the actress that she likes. And Dorothy Dandridge was one of her favorite actress that I choose out of many that she told me. I decided I was going to march with Dorothy Dandridge and Betty and came up with that.
The magic of Boop lies in how it transforms animation techniques from the 1930s into modern-day stagecraft.
The thing I really gives me the chills is all the Fleischerisms that are in there. I love when the audience reacts to it with the, when they're singing Around the Corner and the bouncing ball happens. Because Max Fleischer created the bouncing ball.
Oh.
So that's such a nice nod to what, you know, Max had created. So when the moon becomes the ball, not to give anything away, but, and it starts bouncing on it, it's just such a nice moment to really, you know, encompass the whole Fleischer Studios.
After 25 years of working on Broadway as a performer and director-choreographer, Jerry Mitchell says that Boop is a combination of what he has learned from such Broadway titans as Jerome Robbins, Michael Bennett, and Tommy Tune, as well as several others.
You can't work with them and not absorb some of their tricks, some of their ideas, some of their solutions. It's about just being in the room with those people, and there's a craft to it, you know? It's a craft. And we are creating something that is beautiful musical theater. And I've never been more proud of a show than I have been of Boop, and all of their work in it, all of their work in it.
For Arts in the City, I am Patrick Pacheco, host of Theater, All the Moving Parts.
That is our show for today. Thanks so much for joining us. A quick reminder to check us out on our CUNY TV app and on social media. We would love to hear from you. I'm Anne Riddell. We'll see you next time on Arts in the City.